Hello everyone. Welcome to Gary Mac Studio. I have been, I've been asked by some of my followers to actually do tutorials on my paintings and how I construct them in acrylics. And I'm basically an acrylic painter, and I love to paint with acrylics. So what I want to do first is get a few basic rules down, especially in landscape. And I was going to use these as a demonstration for focal points, for vanishing points. So let's take a look at this painting right here. And I'm not completely through with it. I haven't signed it or varnished it yet. But let's look at it from a vanishing point. Okay, on this painting right here, where would the vanishing point be? It would be right here. And the reason being is, if you'll watch and look, if you put a dot right there, here, let's put a dot up there. We'll just use this piece of tape. We'll put a dot right there. Notice this line, this line, this line, this line, this line, all of these lines, even this line right here. If you'll notice, this one stops here, this one stops here. So this line, all of these lines point to this one area. That's the deepest part in this painting, where everything is focused on that one area. Now let's move over here to this painting. And this painting is one that I did of Bolivar Lighthouse down by Galveston, Texas. Where's the vanishing point on this painting? All right, it would be right here. This line, this line, this line, this line. All these lines, this fence line, this horizon line, it all points to this one place right here. And that's where everything is drawn in. And as you come out forward, everything gets bigger. Like, for instance, here, 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 it gets smaller and smaller as you. In fact, I used to, but I don't do it anymore. Sometimes when I'm doing a painting like this, I used to actually draw these lines on my canvas. I don't have to do that anymore, because I know pretty much where how the vanishing point comes about. Okay, in this painting, what would be the focal point? The focal point would be the first thing you see when you walk up and look at this, and the first thing you're going to see are these bright white buildings. That's the first thing you're going to see. So you're going to focus on this, and once you focus on this, then your eye is going to dance around the rest of the image. This painting, what would be the focal point in this painting? This one, the first thing I see when I walked up to it was how that sun is shining bright on the top of these mountains and down in this valley. and then it bleeds down into this foreground. And this is bright. This could be the first thing you saw, or this could be the first thing you saw. But the first thing I saw was this bright from the sun shining down on the top of those mountains. And actually this video really doesn't do it justice, or it's kind of hard to see. Now this painting is this is a large painting. The vanishing point on this one, same thing, would be right in here. You got this line, you got this line, these lines, all of these lines, this line right here, and then if you'll look down, there's kind of a valley here. It's going to go right up to that area right there. So everything is drawn to this one particular spot. All of these lines are going to this area right here. So what would be the focal point on that? We've established the vanishing point. Now where would what would be the focal point on this? What's the first thing you see when you walk up there? The first thing I see are those elk in the foreground. That draws my attention to the first thing I see. And my eye is drawn to them, and then my eye just dances around the rest of the canvas to see what else is in there. In this particular one, I've named this one Sleeping Lady of the Mountain. Do y'all see her? Look, and you'll see her. So she's sleeping in the mountain. And actually, I didn't plan that. I didn't plan that at all. It's just that someone brought it to my attention, and I didn't even recognize it until somebody brought that to my attention. Now then, when I look at it, that's all I see is a sleeping lady in the mountain. So I'm gonna do a full tutorial on how I construct my landscape. And it's going to be a simple one. And I'm not going to get in just really detailed in it. I'm going to do simple, basic, and we're going to use the same process. We're going to establish a vanishing point, and then we're going to establish a focal point, and then from that vanishing point, that's where we will construct. That's where we will construct a composition. Everything will be based on that one point. So we'll just get started on this, and let me get prepared and get set up, and I'll be right back to you in just a little bit. Okay, guys, here is the image that I want to do a tutorial on, and actually it's pretty simple. We got these simple lines going down, and somewhere over in this area over here is going to be the vanishing point, because all these lines, all of these lines are going to point to an area back over here that's actually off of the image. And I don't know if I want to do grass in this area, I don't know if I want to do grass in this area or if I want to do snow. I kind of wanted to show you how I do snow on the mountains, so we may do that. And we'll do a green landscape another day, but in this tutorial I want to show you how simple it is to do the clouds and do the mountains. These are really, very simple, and the trees. So let's just sit down here and get started. Let me get you up on the tripod and zoom in here on the canvas, and I will try and stay out of the way. And let me put on my PPE, my personal protection equipment, because I can get really messy sometimes. Sometimes I can get really, really messy. So let's just get started. And let's go down to the palette. Let's go down to the palette. And here's how I set up my palette. Every time I do it the same way every time. Right here I've got some transparent white. I got some cerulean blue. I got some ultramarine blue. And this is diazonine purple. It's a dark, deep violet color. You can kind of see burnt umber. And this is Hooker's Green Deep. It's a very deep, almost black green. And then here I mixed burnt umber and some cerulean blue and ultramarine blue, about equal amounts. And you can change it around for the color that you want, but this gives a good blue-gray color that'll go good up in these mountains up in here. And we'll just add a little white to it, and I'll show you how that works. And then coming down this side, I put my earthy colors, my yellows. And right now I'm not gonna put any reds in it, because there's really not any reds in that scene right there. So let's get you back up on the tripod, and let's just go at it. So you don't have to do this if you don't want, but I'm going to go ahead and sketch this in with a piece of charcoal on kind of where these mountains are gonna lay. And then this one comes way up, and then down, and then right along here is the bottom line of that valley. And then we got all the trees and everything else around. And that's actually this is going to come over a little bit and then down. So let's just we'll get started on it right there. And as I said, this is actually it's a very simple painting. And so whatever brush is comfortable with you. I find that the softer bristles tend to work a little better with acrylics. And what I want to do is I want to lay in a layer of white paint first. Pretty heavy layer. And this canvas, I like these finer canvases. In fact, most of the time, if I'm going to buy ready-made canvases. I usually buy the watercolor canvases because they got a very smooth texture and a texture that I like. But if you like a heavy beaded, canvas, that's your prerogative. And I don't spend. This is cerulean blue, and I don't spend time mixing paints on the palette. I'll mix some, but some of these guys, they'll sit there and for hours and mix paints, and I like to just mix them right onto the canvas. So over in this area here, where that bright sunshine was coming from this way down that valley. So I want to get the grain of the sky kind of flowing down that direction. While this is still wet, I want to show you. I'm just going to take a little 1/2-inch filbert and start putting in, start putting in some of these clouds. Well, I'll tell you what, let's do before we do that. Let's get an idea of where those mountains are going to be. So I'm going to use that same brush that I painted on in the sky, and I'm going to get some of this gray color that I mixed up and a little bit of white to tone it down just a little bit, and a little bit of blue to get that bluish green color of those mountains. And they came in here something like this. Come to the peak right up here and down. And then back in behind there was another peak right back in there. And then this darker one started right up here, and it comes right down in this way. And I used to do the Bob Ross type mountains with the palette knives and in oils, and that worked good. But I found that I like the more detailed. Looks of the mountains. So I'm just getting some paint on here. Just a underpainting. Get some color on here, and then back over in this area, back in here, it's a little bit darker. Back down in this area. So we kind of got the lay of the mountain, and we'll come back and we'll refine this in. We're not going to spend a lot of time. On this underpainting because there's no need in it, because it's all going to cover up later. This is just to get an idea of the lay of the mountains. Now then that we kind of got where our mountains are going to go. I'll take this filbert, this little 1/2-inch filbert, and we'll take some titanium white. And those clouds, or these big old puffy clouds. What I'm doing is just getting some paint on, and then I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to push that paint right out to the edge like so. And what it does, it exposes that paint underneath and leaves the edge leaves a sharp edge on those clouds. See how simple that is, and just watch how these clouds develop just by putting some paint on like so, taking a finger and moving that paint around just a little bit, and you start getting these layers. Let me zoom in a little bit on that area so you might see a little better what I'm doing here. And it doesn't have to be exactly like the photograph, and it's not exactly like the photograph. So I'm just getting some paint on, and then I'll take my finger and move that paint up to the edge of those clouds so that you get that layered look, that puffy, those puffy, beautiful clouds. Just move that paint around, and automatically you'll get your darks, the shadows down in, and you don't want to cover up. You don't want to cover up all your dark areas. So these clouds are right in here, some little thin ones. They're not so pronounced as that one. It's kind of in the background back there. And then a few coming across here like so. So I love finger painting. Finger painting is fun. And you don't have to worry about any toxins on it like you do with some of the oils. Especially that Acrylics white that's made from lead. You wouldn't want to use that with your finger, or I wouldn't think you would. I know I wouldn't. So over here we're gonna lead some of these off of the side of that just a little bit. Kind of come across. Something like so. See how simple that is? See how easy that is? And once you try it, and once you get the hang of that, it's just so much fun painting clouds. When I first started painting, clouds were the pits. I had the hardest time getting those puffy, beautiful white clouds. and I would get really frustrated. But this technique really smooths them out and makes them relatively easy. So on these images here, you want to get them darker and darker and darker as you come forward. And down around the bottom of this thing, down around the bottom of this, we're going to want it pretty dark. And what that's going to do, it's going to let that snow, really shine. So we're kind of getting an idea. Of the lay of the land. So here in just a second, I'm going to pull up the subject, the image that we're trying to put on canvas, and this was a free picture that I got off of the internet. So I'm going to deviate just a little bit the color of these mountains up on the top, and because I want to add some snow peaks on there, and I'm going to get the correct colors to get those peaks to really shine with the glow of the sun up on top of them up there. And then we will add some atmosphere in them to push them back. But let's just see how this is going to turn out. Dark, kind of down. Bring it down a little bit down in this area. Okay, now then, we got a little bit of the shadow colors in. Let's put a little bit of snow in there. I'm going to use the same brush. Actually, I need to let those paints dry just a little bit. And get a better effect. I want to let that dry a little bit. Now top of these mountains over here they're kind of jagged, and I've got the wrong brush for that. Let me get this filbert And when this dries, which it won't take it too long to dry, we'll come back and we'll put a glaze over this to get the atmosphere back into it. And as I said in that last painting I did, I don't spend a lot of time trying to get detail in this, because I'll show you why in just a moment. And what's going to happen is we're going to start putting the trees in, and we're going to put some snow in. In fact, let's get this snow in. Well, I just have a terrible time with the camera, don't I? I just have a terrible time with the camera. Trying to get it right. So over in this area here is where all the trees are going to go. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on this. There's no sense in it, because these trees, they come all the way down into this area, and then we'll come in and float those in this little line of trees. It comes back across this way. But I'm going to take a little break, let that dry, then I'll be back in a minute. Okay, what we're going to do next, and this is all dry, is I'm going to come in here and find the right brush I'm looking for. So what we're going to do is start getting some atmosphere back down in this area. We're going to push these mountains back, and then we're going to kind of bring these forward. So to get this atmosphere, I'm going to take a little bit of, just a very little cerulean blue and a little bit of transparent white. Just the brush is really dry, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to kind of glaze over this. And what it's going to do is get these mountains back. It's going to push them back through an atmosphere. And then right down in this area right here, put a little more white. Going to get that hazy, cloudy, hazy. And this is a transparent white. It's going to get that smoky, haze. Put just a little bit of blue in that. We're going to take that right on down into this area down in here. If y'all will notice, the image is kind of washed out. I had my phone set right. I don't know how it got changed, but it all got changed. So it's washed out, looking a little bit, and I had to change it in the editing. And you see what that's done? That's brought those. Let's push those mountains on back in the background, because we're looking through the haze. Now then, on this side of the mountain, we've got snow shadows. So I want to come in here with some blues. We're going to give that snow back in there. in shadow. Then we'll take some titanium white and we're going to get some snow on these mountains. And the reason I wanted to get snow on these mountains is just to show you how I do snow. And I'm going to take a smaller brush. I'm going to take this filbert. Always get your brushes wet in water before you start applying paint to them. Because if it's a dry brush and you get that paint on there, it will dry down in the bristle. So you got to keep that. You got to keep that brush. You got to keep that brush wet. So we're gonna bring the snow right down this edge of that mountain. I'm going to make it really bright right in this area right here where that sun is really shining down on that mountain. And then over here on this part we're going to bring some of that snow down this side of the mountain. You don't want to cover it completely in white because you'll lose the effect. So we'll work on this some more. We'll work on this some more in a little while. We'll let it rest a minute and let us look at it. And then down in this part down in here, we're going to start putting these greens in. These beautiful greens. So kind of right. Well, before we do that, let's go ahead and get this. Let's go ahead and get this part. This is a bluish green right back down in this area. So this is trees. This is trees all down in here. And then we've got brighter and then these trees kind of go up the side of this mountain. And up in here, we'll be able to see. We'll be able to see that green. And then back over in this area, that kind of disappears because it's going to be in that forest or that stand of trees that is right in this area. Now then, let's get some of this yellowish green colors, these brighter greens down in this area. And this, like I say, this is just all an underpainting. So we're going to put in some detail on it, and then the fun part starts after we get all this underpainting in here. And this is what really makes it fun. And back over in this area is pretty much in shadows. It's pretty much in shadows from these trees because the sun's coming in from this direction. Sun's coming in from this direction and laying shadows out across this grassy knoll right here. So we'll get a little bit of dark in here, and we'll come in here in a little while and we will put the highlights in. But on my paintings, what I try to do is all around the edges of my painting, I like to get the edges kind of dark, and what it does, it kind of draws your eyes into the center of the painting. So I'll kind of frame the image. I'll kind of frame the image with dark areas. So I'm not gonna spend any time on this. We're gonna spend a little time on this over here, getting some trees and some atmosphere, and some of this. We're gonna put some of this sky kind of shining down in this area. So what I want to do is get some of this lighter green. I'm just going to smear it up on the side of this mountain, something like this. And we're going to come in here in a minute. We're going to detail that out a little bit. And as I said, there's no reason to spend a whole lot of time back in here, because all of these trees are going to cover most of that up. So here's what we're going to do, is we're going to start putting some trunks of these trees in, and I'm going to use that dark gray that I mixed with burnt umber and blue, and we're going to start adding in all of these trees, and there's a bunch of them. I'm just going to get some lines in there. Cause see, already it's taken away from that part of the image, the trees. It's covering it up. So as I say, there's no sense in spending a lot of time over in an area that you're not going to see. And well, let your paint thin out of your brush, and when you do, those that are kind of back in there are a little bit lighter color than these up in the foreground here. And the closer they are to the front, the bigger they get. So we're going to get some of these that are up closer, a little bit bigger. Now I'm going to take a liner brush. I'm going to take a liner brush, and a lot of these smaller trees that are back over in here, and we don't have to be real precise with these things because all the foliage on these trees are going to cover most of it up. Now then, this area right here, I need to work on it a little bit before I put all these trees in there. And we'll just see how this looks here in a little bit. Let me clean the brush out. Now then, right in this area, I need to work on that some. So I'm going to take this brush, and we're going to put just a little bit of atmosphere right down in this area, right down in here. Just some blue and white. Because what that's going to do is it's going to let these and this is transparent white. I ordered that transparent white just on Amazon. So we're going to smooth this out just a little. And this is going to come right up the side of this mountain. So you see how easy these acrylics are to glaze over. I mean, you can sit here and glaze this and get them. Just don't get carried away at first, and then add as you go. And just add as you go. So we'll get a little bit more atmosphere right down in this area. Okay, that kind of pushed them back a little bit. This one right here needs to tone down just a little. So I'm gonna put a little blue in that, and I'll come back and fix that in a minute. That needs a little work done on it. We'll let that dry. Now then, here comes the fun part. I'm going to find my brush. I got it here somewhere. I'm going to take this little this little detail brush. And I want to come right in here and I'm going to start. No, that ain't going to work. Wrong brush. Let me get a different brush. Let's try this one. It's just a little angled brush. I want to come in here and start getting some trees back down in this area. And all I'm doing is just tapping the canvas. Some of these will be darker, some of them will be darker green, some of them will be a lighter green. You don't want them all the same color. You want to deviate from lights to dark. And out here toward the edge, I want to make them just a little bit darker. Because like I say, I like to get the edges of my image just a little darker. And it really does enhance the rest of the image. So you can see what I've done right here. And then down in this area are some brighter trees or shrubs, or I don't know what they are, but there's a line of them right down and through here. We're just gonna, in fact, I want to change brushes and use a fan brush on some of that. In fact, I'm going to switch it. I'm going to switch it right now and use a fan brush. And it's a small fan brush, like a 1 inch. And this tutorial, it'll probably take by the time I get through it, we'll probably have an hour and a half or so in it, or maybe not that much. We'll see. I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time in this. All I'm doing is just dabbing some paint on, because actually these trees are gonna take away from most of this. I just want to get an indication of something going on right here. And I want a little bit of white in that too, because that sun's gonna kind of shine down in this area and make this part of it glow. And any of you who's following along with this, you can set up your paints, your palette, and you can go back into YouTube and just start painting along with me. And in that you can just pause it when you come to a spot that you need more time to watch what I'm doing. If you want to follow along, and just pause it You catch up. Because I do paint pretty fast. I just want to get a hint of this yellow back in here. And then back up in the side of this mountain. And I want to show you what we're going to do with that here in just a second. And as I say, we don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this. And then right back in here is some of this. Let's see, these paints right here are not dry, so it's mixing in with this paint here, and I'm not getting that good bright yellow that I desire. It's actually showing in the photograph, the image. So we'll just keep going here. We'll just keep playing this by ear. Get some more yellow in. Something like that. So the image is beginning to come together. And I want to show you something in a little while. I want to show you something in a little bit what we can do with these clouds up here to kind of give them a little bit more warm of a texture or saturation or color. So right in this mountain area, right in here, let's just see, this is already dry. Right in here, I'm going to take this little brush that I had a while ago. What did I do with it? Here it is. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it in this really dark Hooker's Green. This Hooker's Green Deep. Get some of that Hooker's Green Deep. And then I'm just going to start dabbing. That's a little too dark. Let me get a little bit of yellow in that. And that's still pretty dark. I'm going to lighten that up just a little. So what I'm going to do is just start dabbing. It's going to give an indication of trees all in this area. That's not the brush. That's not the brush I wanted. In fact, I'm going to use a fan brush. Just the edge of it. Just the edge of that fan brush on these trees back in here. I'm just going to use the edge of it and just dab. Kind of pushing down. And that goes right on up the side of that mountain. And we don't want to spend a lot of time with this, like I say, because these trees in the foreground are going to cover all that up, and you're not going to see a whole lot of that back in there. In fact, you're going to see very little of it. So in these areas, back in here. I'm just going to dab in some of that color and nothing detailed, just some color. Like I say, we're fixing to cover all that up. Now then, up in here, this part, take some blue, a little bit of that white. It's got just a little hint of that green color in it. And I'm going to come in here and just dab a little bit along the top of that to give an indication that it's what we're doing is giving it some atmosphere, because this part of the mountain is behind this part, and we're going to darken this part up. But we don't want to get it too dark, because right down in here, we're going to take that atmosphere and just kind of blend it in with the rest of it. And my paint wasn't dry, I got a little bit of green in it, but that's all right. As I say, you're not going to see a whole lot of this, because those trees are going to cover most of this up. But right in this area here, I do want to get this glaze on there, because I'm going to have that sun. I want to have that sun shining right down through there, kind of bright. And we'll fix that in a minute. I just want to get some color on there. And then over in here, I'm going to glaze this down a little bit. And I might have gotten too much. So I'm going to take just a little bit of water on a paper towel. Take some of that off. Kind of move it down. Kind of move it down. We're going to let that dry, and we're going to work on it a little bit. Going to work on this just a little bit. Get a little bit of blue, just a thin glaze of blue, and bring that atmosphere in the shadows that will be a bluish color, because it's in shadows. Okay, it's coming along, and we're going to put a little bit of snow right up in this area, right in here. Put a little bit of snow right in there. Let me find Let me find the brush that I want to use. So, right in here, I'm going to make this bright. And I'm going to bring that sun glow right down this side of the mountain. Then I'm going to take pure titanium white. Actually that sky right in that area. There's some areas right here that need to be just a little bit darker. Wrong brush. Okay, now I'm going to take this stiff. It's a just stiff round brush. And I'm going to take just a dab of titanium white and just a little bit of cerulean blue, and I'm going to glaze. I want to glaze in parts of this because I want it just a little bit darker right in this area, because I want to add some clouds. I want to add some clouds right in that area, so I'm going to darken this up just a little bit. Right in some of here. Right in some of this area. And I'll show you the reason why here in just a second. So I'll darken this up just a little. And smooth it out where it's not. It's jagged. Now then, actually I'm going to do just a little bit more right in this area. I'll make this area just a little bit darker. And I'll show you why here in just a minute. We'll have to let that dry just a little bit. Well, kind of messing up there, ain't I? Let that dry just a little bit, and then I'll. It's too wet. Got it too wet. We'll let that dry a little bit. Then I'll glaze that again. I'll glaze that part of it again. So in the meantime, let's do this. Let's take the fan brush, and we're going to dip it in this Hooker's Green Deep. And we're just going to start right here. Just touch the canvas. It's got broken. And I'm going to touch and kind of pull over and down a little bit. Actually, those trees are not down. The limbs are pointed upward. So we're going to do them upward. Something like this. These trees are really dense right in this area, and you can, there's not very many openings that you can see through the background. We're just going to cover these in with these dark greens. And along this edge over here, just pretty solid. And while this is drying up here, we can work on this foreground. And these trees aren't going to be that dark when I get through, because we're going to put highlights on them here in a minute. But over in this area, these trees are dark. We'll just keep working these in. And then as we get down to the bottom down here, these are not completely covered. So there is a few branches and stuff that are down low, but for the most part, there's breaks in this. And then I want to show you in a minute, we're gonna put some shadows where that sun is shining through these trees, and it's going to leave some shadows down in this area, and those shadows is what's really going to give this some depth. So now we will take some yellow and mix it with that green, and right up in the top of these trees, the sun is going to shine right in the top of them. I mixed just a little bit of burnt umber. I put just a little bit of burnt umber in that. To kind of give an indication of some sunlight coming through there. You don't want it all the same color. You got to have a place in those trees for the birds to fly through. So down in some of this area, we got some areas that are in shadows. So we will shadow them up, darken them up. See what I'm doing here? I'm just turning the brush this way and that, and just dabbing it to the canvas. Makes a beautiful little tree. Now then, I'm going to get one with just a little bit more sun color on it, right behind it. And I am going to put a little bit of that sun color right on this side. Okay, it's looking better and better. I'll let me kind of zoom in on this some. You know what? I think I got my. No wonder it looks so dark. No wonder it looks so dark. I've got my settings all wrong when there's something happening. Man, no wonder. You guys can't see what I was doing. Okay, I'm sorry about that, guys. I'm going to zoom in on these trees just a little bit so you can kind of get an idea. I didn't realize that my settings had been all messed up on my camera. And that's how amateurs do it. So I'm an amateur at this. We're going to put some bright yellow sunlit areas right on this side of these pine trees. Right at the top of them. Well, it really urinates me that I didn't have the camera set right when I was doing all this painting. Because I know it would look funky to you guys. I'm going to take just a little bit. A little bit brighter orange in a couple of places where the sun is really saturated on those trees. Brighten them up a little bit here and there where that sun's bleeding through. All of that foliage. take some, just a little bit of just a touch of that burnt umber, and that'll give those a more of a earthy tone. And on some of these, we're gonna watch, because I'm just gonna touch. And what that burnt umber does is kind of pushes those trees back a little bit. Those that are in the background, that aren't so close to the foreground. So you see, there's no sense in spending a lot of time in that background, as I keep saying, because you sit there and you overwork it, and there's no need in it, because you're really not going to see it. We'll put one right here. It's a little bit darker. And then there's some taller ones right in this area. There's some taller ones right in this area. Let me make sure I've got the camera where you guys can see what I'm doing. If I don't have a cameraman, I'm it. Now then, a couple of those has a real thin. Let me get a liner brush. Has a real thin point. Kind of comes out like. Something like that. And then there's some smaller ones. Over in this area. And actually, they actually come thin the paint just a little bit so it'll go on a little smoother. So I hope you guys are still following along, because some of you asked for a tutorial. Well, this is it. And this is how I construct all my paintings. And sometimes I will deviate and try something new. If you do the same thing over and over and over and over and over, then it gets pretty kind of mundane. And when it starts getting that, then you start losing the fun or the desire. The desire to paint, because it becomes repetitious, and for myself, I don't want that. I don't want that repetition. I want it to expand. I want it to excel and learn new techniques, learn new procedures. And it don't have to be exactly like the image. And this one is not exactly as the image. Picked up a little bit too much of that burnt umber in that time. So we're going to come in here with a little bit of yellow. And then there's a bushy little tree right here. And then along this edge, there is some foliage. And actually, and we'll touch that again. We'll touch some of this. Now then, down in this area, we're going to take some bright yellow. I'm going to take some bright yellow. And I want to come in here where the sun is going to start laying in some highlights where that sun is going to kind of bleed through. Some of these areas. I want to get just a little bit different color green. And this is just a light green. It's a light green color. Get a little bit of that on my palette and get some of that light colored green. Give it that fresh fresh. And as we come forward, this area down in here, this area down in here is dark, dark. It's just dark, 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 dark green. And I want it dark because that's what's going to kind of frame. This is what's going to kind of frame my, as I said before, I like my edges dark, and it will frame the image. So here we're going to add in these shadows. See how these shadows are coming in? And up in this area, there's, get some more. Need to work some more of this in and a little darker. And then I'm going to put some more highlights up in these trees, brighten them up just a little bit. And then in this area back over in here, going to add in some trees right down in here. I just dabbed in a little paint here. Then I'm going to take a liner brush and going to put in a trunk on that thing. We see what that done. It just a few limbs. Just a few limbs, and up in here we're gonna put a few limbs up in this area. So see, it's kind of coming together. Now I'm going to take this liner brush, and I'm going to take some of this bright yellow color, and I'm just going to touch around some areas right in the top of those trees. Just going to touch it. And that's going to make that, it's going to make that sunshine just glow. It's going to make that sunshine glow right in that area right there. And I'm hoping that you guys can see what I'm doing. It's just so hard to, it's just so hard to get everything in there when you're trying to be the cameraman too. These are just little squiggly lines of bright colored yellow. I'll do a little bit of that over in here, but not much. Just a little. And then on this tree right in here, I'm going to brighten up this thing just a little, and a little bit on a couple of these. So you see, it's coming together. So down in this area, we're going to make this grass. But first, I'm going to take some pure titanium white. I'm going to go right up in this area, right here. And I'm going to snow peak this. I'm going to snow peak this mountain right here. And I'm going to have that come right down through there. And I'm going to take some of that titanium white and brighten up these peaks over here, because I want them to shine in that sunlight. And what that's going to do is it's going to enhance these highlights. So it's going to show bright sun on the left side of the mountain. Now how fun. It is so fun to create these images. Don't want to forget this little guy over here. Now then, we're going to take some of this cerulean blue and just a little bit of that color that I had mixed with burnt umber and cerulean blue. We're going to make some shadows. We're going to make some shadows on this side of the mountain. Got the wrong brush for that actually. Clean that up and let's use this fan brush. The fan brush is more erratic. Isn't that fun? It is so fun. All right, it's looking better, guys. It's looking better. I'm going to try and wrap this up here pretty quick. I want to take some of this green, this lighter green color, and I'm going to come in here and just take a fan brush and I'm just going to dab this green right on the canvas. This light green over in this area where the sun is really bright. Needs a little bit of yellow in it. So a little bit too. There, that's better. So we'll just get this grass. We'll just get this grass done and then make sure my camera's doing what it's supposed to do. And see, even in these areas where the brush strokes are, you don't have to cover all that up, because what you're going to see is just these highlights that you're putting on here. And some of these areas that are in shadows, like right in here, we're going to put some of this dark green. And guys, y'all please understand that this is all new to me. Talking and on the camera, being on the camera and painting on the camera, this is all new to me. And I know it's not professional, and actually I'm not trying to be professional. I'm just trying to give an illustration of how I construct my paintings. So as I said, around these edges of this painting, I want to get it dark. So right down in here, let's get some of this green. Get some of this. I want to show you something. So I'm going to take this fan brush and I'm just going to touch it like this. I'm just going to touch it like this. And then I'm not going to cover that whole thing. I'm just going to cover a few little areas. I'll take the fan brush and I'll lay it on the canvas kind of flat like this. And then I'll come along and take some dark green and and what it does is it puts that grass in the shadows. And then right up in here, we got this guy. We're gonna put that in shadows. The same over here. We're gonna put these in shadows. So, how fun. Right in this area here, I want to make this area pretty dark. I'll make this area pretty dark right back in there. And then right back in here. and put just a little bit of highlight on some of this right in here. Not much, just a little. And then I'm going to take the liner brush again. Where'd it go? Where's my liner brush? Here it is. And I want to take some dark color and had a couple of branches or something that kind of and even down in this area we're going to put some twigs, stems, we'll get some of these shadows in. So guys, we're getting pretty close to being finished with it. But I hope you get the idea of how I do my paintings. So there you go, guys. I'm gonna pretty much hang it up right there, except for one thing I was going to do, and I'm gonna do it while you guys are still here, if anybody's still here. And if anybody is still here, please let me know. Please comment. Right up here, I'm gonna get a little bit of these clouds. Right in here. And I'll probably touch this up some more after when you guys are gone. And then in there, I'm going to soften this up just a little bit. So, there you have it, guys. Let me get the camera down and let me get the camera off the tripod and let's look it over a little bit. And it didn't turn out too bad. It's not exactly as the photograph, but it's not too bad. It's not too bad. So let's go up and let me show you. See, these highlights are just little smudges of paint, but when you back off, you don't really see that. And then the shadows, and then the mountains, and then the grass. It's just a fun thing to do. All right, guys, y'all please subscribe. Send it to a friend, and if anybody wants any more tutorials, let me know, and I might do one live. I'm getting more comfortable of talking and painting on camera. So you guys, tell everyone, so please subscribe, say hello, send me a message if anybody wants any more tutorials, and we'll do a seascape or a snow scene. I love to paint mountains and snow. So you guys let me know. Love y'all. Bye bye.